What's up guys, my name is Ace, and it's time to already start diving into the stats and the numbers of weapons. And the first video that I wanted to make here was just a video looking at the in-game stats and whether or not they're accurate. If you guys missed it from the beta, this is also in the full build of the game. When you look at a gun in the gunsmith, you can pull up advanced stats on these. And with these advanced stats, you can see that we've got a lot of really good stats and we have actual numbers, not just those stat bars that we've always had in Call of Duty, which are often completely misleading and inaccurate. We've got actual numbers, and the devs have said that these numbers will be pulling directly from the in-game code, so they should be accurate. However, after playing Modern Warfare for an entire year, I think most of us have learned that we can't really trust the numbers that are coming from developers, so I did want to put this to the test for myself to see how accurate they actually are, and I was quite surprised by some of the results. Just a spoiler here, it looks like you guys are going to be stuck watching my breakdown videos this year, because you can't rely on all of these numbers. But let's go through each of these numbers individually, and I'm just using the MP5 as a baseline here, and I did my testing with the MP5. And let's start it off at the top. We have damage. The MP5 does deal 32 damage, as it says, but this is only in close range situations. This doesn't paint the whole picture. The MP5 actually drops off to 27 damage at mid-range and 23 damage at longer ranges. And nowhere in these stats does it tell you that. Next up, we have the effective damage range, and again, that is a very accurate number, 15.24 meters. That's exactly where you drop off from that 32 damage down to 27 damage. However, we're missing another range value that would tell us when we drop off from 27 damage down to 23 damage. It turns out that range for the MP5 is 20 meters. So again, while technically accurate, it doesn't paint the whole picture. As for rate of fire, yes, this is perfect. You can absolutely trust these rate of fire numbers. And the same thing goes with bullet velocity. I did test the bullet velocity on several guns and with several attachments that affect your bullet velocity, and I was getting very consistent results, and it appears this bullet velocity number is perfectly accurate. Same thing goes with our vehicle damage. This is also accurate, but again, it's only showing you vehicle damage up close. And then finally, for the firepower section, we have melee quickness, and this one turned out to be accurate as well. So far, it's looking pretty good. Everything's accurate, even though it doesn't all paint the full picture, but things do start to fall apart as we keep going through this list. Now let's move into movement speed, and our base movement speed is perfectly accurate, 10.8 miles per hour, which is 100% movement speed in this game. That is perfectly accurate based on my tests. However, the sprint movement speed is obviously wrong because it's showing that it's exactly the same as the base movement speed, which is obviously not accurate. So I don't know what went on here. This is probably something they could get on top of and fix, but I did do the testing on this, and it appears we get a 1.5 times multiplier to our base movement speed, and that's going to be your sprint speed. So multiply 10.8 by 1.5, and there you go. You've got your sprint value. But I also tested the shooting movement speed. That appears to be correct. And skipping over sprint to fire, we also have our aim walking movement speed. This is also accurate. But now let's circle back to that sprint to fire time, or our sprint out time. I have no idea where they're getting this number from, but as far as I can tell, based on my testing, this value is just not correct. When I test the sprint out time on the MP5, from the moment I pull the trigger while sprinting to the moment the gun goes off, it's about 230 milliseconds, not 350. And this is quite confusing to me. Now, if the number that I had tested was higher than the number that they presented as our sprint to fire time, then that could easily be written off as maybe their sprint to fire time doesn't include like the raise time of a gun, for instance. However, since their sprint to fire time is longer than what I've been able to test, I really don't know where this number could possibly come from. But basically, don't trust this sprint to fire time. And it's also pretty obvious. You can just feel the sprint out time here when you're playing the game. And it's clear if you've played a lot of previous Call of Duties and kept track of the stats, it is blatantly obvious that the SMGs don't have a 350 millisecond sprint out time. So yeah, it looks like your sprint out time on this can't be trusted at all. And this just leaves us with our aim down sight time, which is 275 milliseconds for the MP5, and this one is accurate. So you can trust the aim down sight time, but not the sprint out time. And now let's move into accuracy. And when it comes to accuracy, for most of these numbers, I don't even have any idea how I'd go about testing these. And for most people, when they look at these numbers, if you're just looking at that accuracy section, just by looking at it, do you think you could picture the recoil pattern in your mind? Probably not. These numbers to most people are just nonsense. They're not actually going to mean much. I mean, you could use them for comparison's sake if you're looking at two guns side by side, and one has an obviously lower value of vertical recoil control compared to the other, then sure, it gives you that little bit of a comparison. but it's not going to be enough to really understand the recoil and how it performs in games. So, while I bet these numbers are accurate and pulled directly from the code, they aren't going to mean anything to most people. So then finally, we'll just skip into the ammo section. And with this one, obviously our magazine capacity is accurate with every gun I've seen so far. Maybe at some point there will be a mistake where it's pointing to the wrong value or something, but every gun that I've seen so far, at least, this has been an accurate value, which is no surprise. However, our reload quickness, I can't seem to figure out where they're getting these values from. Now, I realize when reloading in Call of Duty, there are several different reload times you can look at. First up, your reload time is different depending on whether the gun is completely empty or if it's not empty when you initiate the reload. Generally, if you're reloading an empty magazine, it's going to take you a bit longer to perform the reload because you have to chamber a round after, so the animation takes longer. And then also we have our total reload time and we have our reload add time. And what reload add time is this is the amount of time it takes to reload your gun without any unnecessary animations. So it's basically the moment the game has registered that magazine being in the gun, and you'll see on the bottom right corner, your magazine is now filled up. That is your reload add time. And that's the reload time I always share in my gun guides because that's the practical reload time. You can do various things to cancel out those unnecessary animations, and therefore the reload add time is the most practical reload time to be looking at. But even outside of that, I measured the total reload times. I measured both empty as well as a non-empty magazine, and none of the values I measured turned out to be 2.6 seconds for the MP5. So again, I don't know where they're pulling that number from, and to be fair, it's fairly close to what I got. These are the numbers that I measured for the MP5. But just know, the reload times that you see stated in-game, they're not really an accurate representation of the actual reload times of your gun. So that's yet another number that you can't really trust fully. Everything else, though, based on my tests, are all accurate. So yeah, there you have it. A bunch of these stats are perfectly accurate, and we would expect that to be the case because they're pointing directly to the numbers in the game code. However, you definitely don't want to be trusting all of these numbers, and they also just don't paint the whole picture, even the ones that are accurate. So like I said, it looks like you guys are going to be stuck with me for another year watching my gun guides, watching my breakdowns, which is great for me. But some of you guys might be a little disappointed that you're going to need to do that, and not all of these numbers can be trusted fully. Of course, I'd like to know in the comment section below, what do you guys think about this? What do you think about the fact that we have these more detailed stats, and most of them are accurate? And then also, what are your thoughts on the ones that are either inaccurate or just incomplete? Just let me know all of those thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.